Hi, how are you today? The improved package has arrived. We're having it fitted in time for FP1. Have a look at the factory report.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode episode number 71 today for the Hungarian Grand Prix in Season 4. And finally, we've got this brand new part fitted to the car, which was the major drag reduction update. Of course, if you did miss the last episode, number 70, then go check that one out before you see this one. But in that episode, we obviously had that major part fail on us. It was the first time Chris had to actually give us some bad news then. But now, thankfully, obviously, we repaired it. We got enough points last episode, so we've got that on the car. And hopefully, that will be making a huge difference, because last season on the Renault, it was astronomical in terms of the difference it made, especially in slipstreams of cars. Now, obviously, Hungary is going to be more kind of towards the Monaco style circuit, so maybe the slipstream effect and the straight line speed may be not much of an issue really for us today. And generally, obviously, speaking, the Red Bull car has gone very well around Hungary as a whole in Formula 1 in real life. And hopefully the same thing can be said in the game. We're going to be running quite high wings, around 10.9. We've run that pretty much the entire time we've been doing this career mode when we come to Hungary there, obviously to try and get the maximum amount of time in Sector 2 and Sector 3. Sector 1 is maybe where we'll lose most of our time down that main straight off the back few corners as well. Traction will be crucial, and generally speaking, the AI are very damn good at traction zones this year on this year's game, so that's maybe where we're going to be losing the most time. But if we can get a good qualifying grid slot, we can see what we can do, maybe try an alternative strategy as per usual in Q2 perhaps, and then we'll see how it goes. But also, an added challenge for this episode of the Hungarian Grand Prix is actually, if you don't follow me on social media, well, basically I'll try and fill you in a little bit. The last few episodes have been pre-recorded like a few days in advance, so going into this episode, it was the first time I've driven the F1 2017 game and this Red Bull car in a couple of days, so it was kind of, in practice, it was kind of getting used to the car again, getting used to the game again a little bit, trying to dust off the cobwebs, and so hopefully that will not affect us too much in the qualifying and the race, but, you know, that's going to be the added challenge for this episode in terms of the entire time. It's going to be kind of going back to this game after a couple of days, taking a few breaks and having pre-recorded the episode. So we go into Q2 then, and you saw it was no problem obviously in Q1 as you would imagine in the Red Bull car, but very, very odd situation in Q2. I come out on my lap here and you can see Ricciardo, it's the worst timing. Obviously maybe I could have timed it better, but very, very odd. Ricciardo was actually fighting me into turn 1 for the position, and he's on his out lap, so that was very, very strange. But you can see in our Q2 lap, we're on the set of soft tyres, so using that alternative strategy I just mentioned, and at Hungary we can do a one-stop going to the soft tyres at the start of the race that we're qualifying on right now, and then going on to the medium tyres for a pretty bog standard one-stop. And I was very surprised to see that no one else did that in Q2, not Kimi Raikkonen or Hamilton, and those two guys did this in Season 3, so I was very taken aback that I was the only man to do this strategy, because in last season, I think that was the key to Raikkonen, or I think it was Hamilton winning the Grand Prix, whoever won the Grand Prix last year, that was the key to their success, was the one-stop they tried from the soft tyres, so that was very odd to me, but anyway, hey-ho, that means maybe we'll have an advantage then going into this race. But you can see on our Q3 lap, pretty okay in Sector 1, but then in Sector 3 you saw going opposite lock into that right-hander at the third last corner, so that would have lost us a 10th or 2 potentially. Going through the last corner, then opening DRS, coming across the line, it actually ends up still being a very decent lap time, provisional pole position. By the end of the session though, we go down to second place, but you can see the gap was so close that in the end, that mistake going opposite lock in the third last corner, losing probably 2/10, at least 1/10 loss there, was probably what lost us pole position. So a little bit frustrating, but also equally kind of good to see that we could have maybe had the pace for pole today, but you know, very, very close between myself, Sebastian Vettel, and Raikkonen even in third place. Of course, these three, the top 3 here in Q3, are the top 3 in the World Drivers' Championship, so great to see in terms of, for the championship's sake, it's all very, very close still in terms of the competitive nature on the grid and in qualifying. But yeah, looking forward to this battle now. We're very, very close to Vettel, and we'll have to see how it goes off the line. Obviously, we may bog down a little bit being on the soft tyres versus the super softs, but as I said, around here at Hungary in Season 3, I had to hold off Vettel on a one-stop, and I was able to do that, so hopefully now starting even further ahead, I can do that successfully again. But the last few races, I'm not going to lie, have been very, very hectic, and for me, I've not had the best luck and consistency, so I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to speak too soon. So let's go to the full grid, and then we'll see how our luck pans out in the race.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and a Red Bull alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, and Hülkenberg, Bottas, Palmer, Ocon, and Sergio Perez, Massa, Sainz, Daniel Kvyat, and Alonso, Magnussen, Ericsson, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Lance Stroll, their line. And Roman Grosjean starts from the back of the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, so here we are on the front row of the grid, which is kind of a rare sight almost on this game. It's not too often that we don't see a car in front of us then on the starting grid for a race. But as per usual, having to fill up on fuel compared to the default, really underfueling the car. But I want just that little bit extra of half a lap extra just to use the rich mix. Of course, though, don't need to put so much in, so only half a lap, because we could probably get away with running lean mix quite a lot in Sector 2 for most of this race. But that one stop then, soft tyres to the medium tyres. Let's see how it goes then. From second place on the grid alongside Sebastian Vettel as we go to 5 red lights for the second half of Season 4. 5 red lights go out and we're underway here for the Hungarian Grand Prix. And Sebastian Vettel's got an electric start compared to us, and we're already up into rich mix to try and defend from the Lewis Hamilton, Dan Ricciardo and Kimi Raikkonen all going side by side into turn 1. We're just about managing to stay ahead in P2. Meanwhile, Raikkonen going right around the outside of Ricciardo and trying to also maybe take Lewis Hamilton. He's got a great exit. Hulkenberg not too far behind, so those 4 cars going toe-to-toe. Raikkonen down the inside of Hamilton. Ricciardo equally on the inside of Nico Hulkenberg, I think that is. And Raikkonen's going to have to go the long way around the outside. Hamilton doesn't squeeze him out. And so on the run up to the blind hill, you can see Vettel, myself, and then Raikkonen just manages to pinch ahead in P3. Hamilton still trying his best, though, as they go up the hill. So fair play to Hamilton then. And I think Raikkonen, though, is just about going to have that. And followed by Ricciardo behind Hamilton. So a poor start for us, as I mentioned, being on the soft tyre compared to the super softs. Although maybe not, doesn't seem like a huge difference in qualifying. On the starting order, when the lights go out, you just don't have that instant bite point into the tarmac compared to the super softs. They're really bogged down against Sebastian Vettel. Thankfully, though, into turn 1, managed to find the line then to just stay ahead. You can see Vettel set the fast lap of the Grand Prix, then me, and then Kimi Raikkonen. So all of us straight away on lap 3 on it like a car bonnet. All of us pushing as hard as we can to try and catch one another. And meanwhile, back down the order is my teammate Ricciardo trying to defend from Nico Hulkenberg. So he's equally going hard here in this Grand Prix, trying to find a move around the outside to turn 1. Doesn't work out. Ricciardo defends quite well, but then into the next corner, Ricciardo is going to have to go defensive once more, and a little bit of a lockup from Hulkenberg will actually be meaning he's susceptible to his teammate Julian Palmer. So the two Renaults, they were side by side on lap 1, and they find themselves side by side once again on lap 3 this is. And you can see Hamilton then getting away from Ricciardo, and Bottas really strong in this Grand Prix, finding himself behind both the Renaults. So you can see the Mercedes in the hands of Bottas is really not a great car at the moment this season, or I don't know, maybe that just says more about his AI car compared to Hamilton's AI. But now we move on to lap 4 into turn 1. You can see DRS was available and is still available. We are closing up slowly but surely to Sebastian Vettel, and then on to lap 5 using that new major drag reduction update in the slipstream of Vettel as he sparks away. Rich mix flying, DRS open, lunging down the inside to maybe make a move. Vettel just has enough though to cover us off into turn 1, but you can see actually in Hungary even that update's really coming into effect, and just like was the case in Season 3 in our Renault car around Spa, was it, when we slipstream Vettel from so far back around Blanchimont. We're doing the same basically from Hungary, coming from so far back in the last corner. You can see moving on to the end of the next lap, lap 6, and you can see through the final corners we're not actually on pace with the Ferrari in terms of traction zones. The Ferrari has me in the corner on the exit here, but then as we creep up then, open DRS, getting that toe, it just pulls and pulls and pulls more top end speed then, and we're going to have another chance to make a lunge now. But this time though, we're so much closer to Sebastian Vettel's rear end, then into turn 1, far more committed than last time. Little bit of a lock up on the right front and some contact on the left for good measure, but we've just managed to squeeze through. But Vettel straight away comes back us round the outside then of the left hander, oh so close from our front right side to his side body. It'll be so easy for him to squeeze out there on the left hand side, but he's given us the room and he's lifted off somewhat, and we're up into first place then. And so it's myself, Vettel, and then Raikkonen. You can see all nose to tail as Kimi has used myself and Vettel battling to good effect to close his teammate up. And so we go through the next few laps then, still leading the way from Vettel to Raikkonen, but you're about to see something absolutely amazing from Kimi. A lunge and a half round the outside. Raikkonen completely outbrakes his teammate then and goes side by side into the last 2 corners then. This is something we don't see too often from Kimi Raikkonen in real life, and he's managed to overtake his teammate then, and Vettel straight away probably gets flustered and thinks, okay, this is the right time to come in now. So Vettel going for the undercut then, clearly struggling then for pace as Kimi, well, you saw it there, came from miles back to go alongside him then. So definitely Vettel probably trying something else and maybe plan B a little bit to go a little bit earlier on the pit stop maybe. So from the super soft tires, he'll go onto the soft tires. But you can see here, he gets held up by Nico Hülkenberg, and that will mean Lewis Hamilton is able to jump him in the pit stop. So Vettel, double bad, really, being overtaken by Raikkonen, so he probably would have ended up behind Raikkonen anyway, because I doubt the undercut will be that powerful, and Kimi looked to have so much pace in that stage of the Grand Prix. But now, he's been overtaken by Lewis Hamilton then. You can see there's a whole gaggle of traffic as well that all those guys are going to have to navigate. So Vettel is now in a sandwich between Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo. So we move on to lap 12 now. At this stage, Raikkonen has already pit as well. He was on the super soft tyres, remember. I've gone as long as I can on the soft tyres. Now, I was actually having really good pace. I actually went faster on lap 11, and that was my personal best time. On lap 12 then, I lost about 2-3 tenths, so I thought that was the perfect time to come in then. Don't lose too much time, and don't want to stretch the tyres too much. And now, I've decided to convert this race now for myself to a 2-stop, because the pace was very, very decent. It wasn't like I was struggling, it wasn't like I was being overtaken by the Ferrari car and having to do a 1-stop just to get ahead of him and get track position. So we're going to go on to another set of soft tyres then, and go to about lap 24, lap 25. That will give us 10 laps then to the end of the race to go on to a set of super soft tyres for our third stint. Looking at the AI, generally looks like they've been pitting around lap 9 to about lap 11, so it seems about right. As we exit the pits though on lap 13 then, as we're doing our outlap effectively, the safety car gets called out there, so neutralises the race somewhat. We're already in second then, so we're clear of Raikkonen, so that was no worry then. So the safety car is just going to kind of basically help us out a little bit, maybe stretch the soft tyres a little bit further. But you can see, whilst that was going on, this was whilst I was doing my first stint before the pit stop was made. You can see Ricciardo is able to get ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So Vettel came out ahead of Ricciardo and was stuck behind the Sauber for so long that Ricciardo managed to just pop it around the outside in the same place that Raikkonen outbroke him before. So, you know, Vettel seems to be really struggling to that one specific corner then. And then Ricciardo goes to overtake the Sauber. You've got, I think that's Hamilton or Bottas. I think it's Bottas came out the pit lane then just behind those two. But Vettel unable to follow Ricciardo through to overtake the Sauber. So I think it's Marcus Ericsson that is holding up Vettel, an absolute treat. So Vettel is losing hand over fist now. There's Hamilton, there's Ricciardo then going through, and you've got Bottas and the two Renaults right up his chuff then. So really, really bad stuff then, and a bad race for Vettel so far in the first third of this race. And meanwhile now, this is why this safety car was called out. Now, a very similar incident to the one, I believe it was last season in Brazil, I think. This is Sergio Perez coming out the pit lane then, and as he crosses the white line, instant left front puncher on that set of medium tyres. So absolute disaster then for Checo. Obviously, he would be going long on that set, probably to the end of the race, in fact. And so he goes off track then and goes so slowly with an entire lap to do that I think that's why the FIA have called out the safety car then. So we are now on the restart then, 2 laps later, lap 15. We are leading the train. We slow down the pack. We control when we bolt, and we bolted a little bit earlier than the final corner. And it's a pretty decent getaway, but Raikkonen has stuck with us then. I try my best to slow him down like we kind of did when we had to restart, I think it was at Mexico, if I remember correctly, last season. But we go defensive to the inside as Raikkonen does pull a lot of time on us down that straight, probably obviously in rich mix. I'm in rich mix as well, but you can see obviously Ferrari v the Renault power in the back of my Red Bull car still not quite equal as we want it, and so we're just about staying ahead though in first place with that defensive line into turn 1 on lap 16. But as we cut onto the end of the same lap then, the entire lap Raikkonen has stuck with us. He's still there in the mirrors. Proximity arrow there is going to get closer and closer, and as we go towards the beginning of lap 17 then, Raikkonen moves to the right hand side of the circuit. It's so fast I can't even go to the inside to go defensive. We're going to have to try around the outside then, and we're just jockeying for position, both of us on the set of soft tyres then, so both of us doing that 2-stop then. He's just doing it the other way around, and as hard as I try basically to defend from him on the left hand side, you can see off the exit of turn 1, you can clearly see the difference in power between the Ferrari car and my Red Bull there. He's able to power past us. I tried to maybe think about diving down the inside of turn 2 then, but that probably would have ended up in a crash, and I just didn't want to take that risk. So we're staying in P2. We're pushing hard though. You can see setting a purple sector in sector 2 on lap 18 then, locking up a little bit as we get closer. And you saw Raikkonen actually felt the need to go defensive in that right-hander where he made the pass on Vettel and Ricciardo made the pass on Vettel. So it looks like that corner appears to be a very crucial one for the AI in terms of the way they make the decision, and it seems that's the corner they go defensive on if you're getting closer and closer. And we go for a fastest lap of the Grand Prix now, so Raikkonen really pushing me hard to try and go as fast as I can in this Grand Prix. So absolutely awesome feeling in terms of the car, in terms of it felt very hooked up at this stage of the Grand Prix. Felt a little bit worse earlier on And so as the laps have gone by, like I said, kind of it's been a few days since I've actually driven the game. So as I was going through the race, I think I was getting more and more comfortable back on the game, basically, and getting faster and faster. Meanwhile, away from us, this is a battle between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton for what I think is P3 in the Grand Prix. You can see, yeah, there is myself and Raikkonen going into turn 1. And meanwhile, this is now Vettel trying to go around the outside of his rival in real life, Hamilton, trying to stick around the outside for what will be the podium then to make it a double Ferrari podium. Obviously, he's making his way back. He got overtaken by Hamilton previously in the Grand Prix due to a bad pit stop, and Vettel has managed to squeeze out Hamilton, but Hamilton comes back at him down the inside of that right hand as he goes off track a tad, and they go toe to toe up to the blind right hander. Vettel still trying his best to squeeze out Hamilton off the circuit. Hamilton goes, still keeping his shoulders in there, getting the elbows out on up the hill, but it looks like Vettel may just have this. Yes, he will. Hamilton has to back out into the next chicane, unable to go side by side with him, and so Vettel leads from Hamilton, Bottas, and then I think that's Nico Hülkenberg not too far behind then. So the Renault's still in the fight in the midst of the top 3 usual suspects then, and we've got yellow flags, and oh, Hamilton's off, and it looks like a retirement then, another retirement for Lewis Hamilton, and that is going to be the second safety car of the afternoon then. So Hamilton out of this Grand Prix, being overtaken by Vettel, and then immediately retires. So the Mercedes car essentially gives up with life then after being overtaken by a red Scuderia Ferrari car. And so we're back 2 laps later, or 3 laps later, lap 22 at the end of it, and we're here for another restart. This time though, I'm the man in second place, and Raikkonen is the one that leads us through, and it looks like Raikkonen has definitely bolted a little bit better than I did when I tried it on him as we move on towards lap 23 now. So with the 2 safety car periods basically effectively taking 3 laps essentially out of our race, we're kind of flown by through the Grand Prix now. We're already on lap 22, already 2 laps away from that lap 24 kind of period where I mentioned we were going to make a pit stop for the super soft tyres. So, you know, the laps have really tumbled the way through this video, and now we move on to lap 23, the end of it, on towards lap 24, and you can see Raikkonen setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix. Previously, I had set a fast lap of the Grand Prix, so myself and Raikkonen really pushing each other, you know, constantly, every single lap. We're kind of trading fastest lap, just like it was the case with Vettel and Hamilton in real life at the Chinese Grand Prix, if you remember, all the way back to that race. But then as we move on to 1 lap later, you can see the gap has really grown out to Raikkonen, and I am struggling against him. He's got the more consistent pace. He set another fast lap of the Grand Prix, and as DRS is now activated, Vettel is going to try to make a move around our outside. We're going to go defensive to the inside. It's going to be a very kind of easy defensive move, actually, to just go wide and take him wide and defend that second place for now. But with 10 laps to go now, the pace is starting to drop off a little bit compared to Kimi, and I'm thinking about probably coming in this lap, I would say, for the super soft tyres. We've got 10 laps exactly, so we may as well. We're not going to have issues with tyre wear, and of course that will hopefully give us a bit of an undercut. So you can see Kimi does continue on for 1 more lap, so that'll be the perfect scenario for us. He's going to go longer. I'll have a chance for an undercut. Vettel's going to come in with me then, and so here's hoping, fingers crossed, the super soft tyres versus, well, you know, Kimi could technically go on to another set of super softs. That's the annoying thing, actually. Due to the second safety car now, it's allowed Raikkonen to probably skip out a second set of soft tyres, and he's probably going to be able to run another set of super softs at the end of this race, whereas previously, without that second safety car, I would have had the advantage on the faster compounded tyre, but now he can probably go on that same set of compounded tyre. And so meanwhile, behind us, it looks like on the top left, Vettel has lost another position, I think, to us in this Grand Prix. We've got a few cars not making a pit stop coming in. So let's look at a replay here. Vettel comes in. You can see that was us behind. So we're going to make, obviously, a jump then. And then you can see there the Toro Rosso of Danica Fiat does overtake. And also, I think that was a Force Indy then. So Vettel, for the second time this afternoon, is screwed over in the pit stops there. So Ferrari really not on it with Vettel's pit stops there, or the timing of the pit stop, I should say. And so he gets held up enough to come out behind a few cars, including Daniel Ricciardo still. Also, Esteban Ocon, that looks like going toe-to-toe with one of the Renaults, which I think looks like to be Nico Hülkenberg, perhaps. But Vettel now still behind Ricciardo then, after he got overtaken. So, really torrid day in the office for Sebastian. You can see a little bit of lock-up from that Renault. Maybe Julian Palmer, I think, because I actually think Nico Hülkenberg may be a little bit up the order here, and maybe going longer, because I think he's trying a one-stop. So, anyway, back to our POV then, onto lap 26, trying to overtake Stoffel Van Dorn, who is trying a kind of a one-stop or kind of longer stint here. I believe he was probably on a set of medium tyres at the beginning of this Grand Prix. We go side by side in the high-speed section there in 5th gear. here going side by side there. Very, very nice move to witness back. Very, very close between myself and the McLaren car. But he definitely lost us a bit of time then, so that was kind of my worry. And we come up here now. You can see up ahead is Raikkonen. So Raikkonen is stayed ahead of us. We haven't got the undercut, but you can see we're going purple. But again, another slower car. We make a dive bomb move to the inside here and basically take no nonsense from the Sauber this time compared to the McLaren car. And now we're up into P4, chasing after now the next man on the track is Kimi Raikkonen. But as I mentioned, I believe Hülkenberg and I think it's Fernando Alonso are trying a one-stop strategy, and they're in 1 and 2. So you can see at the moment, once again, myself and Raikkonen trading fast after the Grand Prix. I set one, then Raikkonen did. Even though I went faster than my previous lap, Raikkonen went that little bit faster than me. And so, again, just great to see that constant kind of swapping of lap times is still a constant here, even after the final pit stop. But now you can see, here's what I was talking about. This is Fernando Alonso being caught in second place, locks up. Actually, looks like he's made a mistake after he's kind of seen Raikkonen come rapidly in his mirrors there. So kind of uncharacteristic to see Alonso making a mistake and getting flustered by another driver, really. But Alonso doing a fabulous job as it was in P2, now in P3. But we're going to have to hopefully try and spoil the party, unfortunately, Fernando. But at the moment, I think it's Nico Hülkenberg who's leading the Grand Prix. Got ahead on the one stop. The safety cars have helped him out here massively. And so now it's a case of myself and Raikkonen, as Sebastian Vettel now is out of this race. It's a case of me and Raikkonen. Well, we were going to be catching Hülkenberg rapidly, but now a third safety car has been called out in this race due to Sebastian Vettel being out this Grand Prix. But again, laughable that again Vettel with so much, but I don't think one man can get any more bad luck in an F1 season, really. Vettel getting way more bad luck than he actually has in the real life season now at this rate. So he was still behind Daniel Ricciardo, and then up the hill, just an engine failure, simple engine failure for his Ferrari car, and he has to park up here on the left, and that causes a safety car. So I was going to say that with about 9-8 laps to go, it was a case of, you could see myself and Raikkonen rapidly caught up Alonso, and hopefully we were going to rapidly catch up Hülkenberg because he wasn't too far up the road, and so that would have been a really thrilling kind of intense 8 laps. But now the safety car has come out and come into play. It only means we have 3 laps left in this Grand Prix. So now Hülkenberg has been gifted this chance to just basically defend from us for 3 laps. And so his job is a little bit easier. He's on worn medium tyres, so maybe that's a way me and Raikkonen can overtake him. But obviously we now know the Renault, the Works Renault team aren't too bad in the straight line. We've seen many times this season he's been faster than Mercedes cars down the straight. So let's see now on the restart then. Hülkenberg from Raikkonen, myself and Fernando Alonso, but not for too long because I think Bottas is going to end up overtaking Alonso. And then meanwhile for my teammate, really frustrating for me to watch back. This is Ricciardo. He was in good points here, and for some reason he's come in for a late pit stop with 2 laps to go from medium tyres. I don't know if his tyre was just so poor, but yeah, really annoying to see that Ricciardo was in really solid points and he comes in and ruins it, and now he's going to be out of the points, unfortunately. Unfortunately for the team as a whole, for Red Bull. But now we move on then. So it's been a few intense 3 laps then, but unfortunately for myself and Raikkonen, Nico Hülkenberg has used that straight line speed advantage and the traction off the corners to keep it through. So at the moment, as we go through the final corner, it's going to be Nico Hülkenberg to be gifted effectively a race win here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's Raikkonen in second and myself in third place. So in the end, a little bit anticlimactic, a little bit frustrating really, that it was looking like it was all bubbling up to be a fantastic ending between myself and Raikkonen, constantly going faster and faster and pushing each other and catching Hülkenberg then and making our way through that traffic. And then in the end, that third safety car, just 3 safety cars in itself, when you think about it, just a bit too excessive in a race. But to have it such poor timing, to make it only 3 laps to the end is, giving me hunger for more. I really felt like there was some more racing to be had, but that's racing sometimes. You can only be dealt, how many laps you have there in the Grand Prix. So still, in the end, thoroughly enjoyable race to watch back then. And in the end, you got to see still pretty consistent, third place, and we're leading the Driver Championship still. Raikkonen still stays put in second then. The only man who loses out is Sebastian Vettel with that DNF. Hülkenberg jumps him now to third place then, but still only a couple of points in between myself and Kimi. So it's all rather tight still in the Drivers' Championship. And the Constructors, well, Ferrari still, even though the issues, there's still one Ferrari still scoring good points, so they're still in the lead of the Constructors, and we're kind of in a bit of no man's land really in second place. And the same for Renault, who are at the moment about 20 or 30 points ahead of Mercedes there. But you can see the reputation level, Ferrari and Renault not liking my work, but Mercedes have been liking it even more, as obviously Mercedes this season are pretty much the 4th best team. Very surprising indeed. And McLaren, so they're taking a fancy to me. So we'll have to see what Toto Wolff is maybe saying at the end of the season. But it looks like Ferrari and Renault don't want me to come knocking, so we'll have to see how that goes. But you can see I'm debating with myself here in these last few screens what upgrade I should go for. I've got enough points to potentially purchase that next chassis upgrade, but in the end, I decide no, I want to go for the engine. It's very clear that is the place we're lacking, and the major engine upgrade coming up next. Obviously, we know how good major upgrades work, so that's going to work an absolute treat. So if we can try and get that next episode, that could be a big one for the end of the season. But guys, if you have enjoyed this episode, smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you and do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.